All right, let's get started. Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Stolfi. I'm the DCBS Director and State Insurance Commissioner. I use he, him pronouns, and it's my pleasure to welcome you this morning to the first of 4 community engagement open house events. These open houses are part of the work the department is doing, stemming from House Bill 2167. It's the Racial Justice Council Codification Bill. The bill directs state agencies to take racial equity considerations in their plans and actions to promote and practice social justice and fairness for underserved and under-resourced communities, such as Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian, Pacific Islander, and tribal communities. We know we cannot do this work alone, so we're asking for your help. This open house is one of many chances we're arranging to give us feedback on our work and our budget. Today's open house will start with a short presentation I will give about the agency and our budget and the budget process, followed by presentations from the Division of Financial Regulation, or DFR, and Oregon OSHA. The remaining time in the open house will be a chance to ask questions, get answers, and interact with our division and agency leadership. You're welcome to stay as long as you wish and ask questions at any time. And while today's session will focus on DFR and Oregon OSHA, you're welcome to ask questions and provide feedback on any of our programs. I'll give some time for this after my presentation for anyone who wants. I'll note that we're having 3 more sessions, 1 more on these 2 divisions and 2 on our other 2 main program divisions, the Building Codes Division and the Workers' Compensation Division. You can see the schedule on your screen right now. Please note that we are recording these sessions so that they can be available for anyone who cannot attend today. And you don't have to reach us only through these open houses. You can email us at dcbs.engagement@dcbs.oregon.gov. The email is on the screen right there. We'll route your email to the correct division. I also want to note that this is a new process for us, and we know we're probably not getting everything right, and that we're very open to hearing from you on how we can do this better. So, okay. I'll just note just what, yep, there we go. So, all right, so against that background, let's get started. I'd first like, and just a reminder to folks to mute your line if you're not currently speaking. So first, I'd like to tell you a bit more about who we are and what we do. Then I'll talk a bit about our budget, how much it costs to run our agency, how we're funded, and how much revenue we generate for the state. Finally, before turning things over to our 2 divisions, I'll share a little bit more about our community engagement goals and next steps. So let's start with a bit more about who we are and what we do. So DCBS is the state's largest consumer protection, worker safety, and business regulatory agency. And it's safe to say that every Oregonian is affected by the work we do at DCBS in one or more ways, in many instances in ways they'll never see. This is driven by the broad nature of our mission, which has 2 halves: to protect consumers and workers, while also supporting a positive business climate. This slide shows our organizational structure and the many different subject matters we are responsible for, which we generally group into 3 slightly overlapping buckets. So blue, that's our worker protection system. This includes Oregon OSHA, whose mission is to improve workplace safety and health. Oregon OSHA is committed to working with labor, business, and other government agencies in pursuit of that goal. Workers go to Oregon OSHA to report a safety concern at work, to learn about workplace rights and responsibilities, and learn about managing workplace safety and health hazards. Employers go to Oregon OSHA to receive help creating a safe and healthy work environment, to find online training resources, and to learn about free, confidential safety consultations. Also included here is the Workers' Compensation Division. They administer and regulate laws and rules that affect workers, employers, insurers, claims examiners, attorneys, medical providers, and others. The Workers' Compensation Division ensures that injured workers receive timely and accurate benefits and quality medical care. The division also helps injured workers return to work through incentive programs for employers. Our 2 ombuds programs fit here as well. One to help small businesses navigate the workers' comp issues, And the second has historically served as an independent advocate for injured workers dealing with the workers' comp system that we just this year expanded to also help workers protect their rights under Oregon OSHA's laws and rules. Finally, we also host the Workers' Compensation Board, which conducts hearings, case reviews, and mediation services. The board resolves disputes that arise under workers' compensation laws and the Oregon Safe Employment Act. Turning now to green, this represents our building safety system. This includes OSHA again, so it also sets certain requirements for buildings that house workers. The Building Codes Division is here as well, of course. It is responsible, along with its 7 governor-appointed Senate-confirmed boards, for adopting statewide building codes, as well as for overseeing a statewide inspection system, providing tools and assistance to local governments, and issuing plumbing, electrical, and boiler licenses across the state. Consumers might go to the Building Codes Division to find information on building permits and to confirm contractor licenses and inspector certifications. Finally, yellow represents our consumer protection system. BCD is included here again due to its role in training and certifying inspectors across the state, as well as its role as a default building department for any county that does not operate one. Our Division of Financial Regulation protects consumers and regulates insurance, state banks and credit unions, trust companies, securities, and consumer financial products and services. Consumers can go to the Division of Financial Regulation to file an insurance or financial services complaint, verify a license, or learn about insurance and financial services. Okay, so that's a bit about who we are and what we do. Now let's talk a little bit about our budget. So DCBS, there's a lot of numbers on the screen. Don't worry about trying to read them all. So DCBS is primarily funded by those we regulate and their customers. We are a non-general fund agency, which means we do not rely on state tax or lottery or other revenue to fund our programs. In fact, we bring into the general fund or send directly to other agencies, particularly the Oregon Health Authority and the Office of the State Fire Marshal, much more money than we use to run ourselves. We also receive a healthy amount of federal funds to support our programs and actively try to maximize the amount of federal dollars we can bring in to offset the use of state dollars. So slide up now shows our estimated revenue sources for the current biennium. That's the period which runs from July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2023. As you can see, we're expecting to collect more than $1.4 billion. What you don't see is that this is from more than 500 different fees, assessments, or other charges that we collect across our programs. From this $1.4 billion plus dollars we collect, we were given about $294 million to run our programs during this biennium, with the rest going directly to the general fund or to other agencies or programs, as I mentioned. As for the money to fund our operations, this slide shows where it goes by division, including the number of full-time staff we've been allocated. Now, all of that is for the current biennium, the current 2-year period, and what we've already been given. And we're speaking with you, of course, about our next budget. It's important, however, to have this background because the legislature uses something they call our current service level, CSL, as the base for our next budget, and our CSL is essentially our current budget. So in other words, each budget builds on itself, and we spend most of our time making a case for any increases in funding or positions from one budget to the next, or sometimes even defending against decreases. Okay, so that's some background about who we are and what we do, as well as our budget. Now let's talk about our community engagement plan and why we invited you here today. So as I mentioned, the Racial Justice Council Codification Bill directs state agencies to take racial equity considerations in their plans and actions to promote and practice social justice and fairness for underserved and under-resourced communities. This work has been coordinated through the governor's office, where about 26 agencies, including ours, were asked to prepare community engagement plans outlining how they would work towards developing a racial equity impact statement, or REIS, to submit as part of its budget proposal. For this first budget cycle with this new requirement, agencies were asked to identify one program to develop an REIS for as part of their community engagement plan. From the start, however, we have looked at this as more than a budget initiative. We're using it as an opportunity to overhaul how we engage with our stakeholders especially those from underserved and under-resourced communities. So instead of focusing on one program and developing one REIS, we included 22 different programs across 7 different divisions or units in our community engagement plan, with the goal of increasing our level of engagement across each of these programs, as my colleagues will discuss in a moment. And from these 22 programs, we worked with the governor's office to choose 2 to develop an REIS for as part of this first budget cycle. Those are our Oregon OSHA enforcement program and our Division of Financial Regulation, Consumer Education, and Advocacy program. So that said, we want to hear from you on any and all aspects of our programs that you would like to discuss or have questions about. To that end, before turning it over to DFR and Oregon OSHA, we first ask if anyone has any questions or wants to provide any feedback on any of our other programs. I'll pause for a minute, of course, to let folks find the mute button, or you can put a comment in the chat. Okay, well, you're welcome at any time to raise a hand, put a comment or question in the chat, or ask a question or share some feedback. So with that, let me now turn things over to my friends at the Division of Financial Regulation to talk about their community engagement program.
Great. Thank you, Andrew, and good morning, everyone. TK Keene, Administrator with the Division of Financial Regulation. Happy to be here with you today to talk about our community outreach programs and the mission and budget of the Division of Financial Regulation. Joined today by Alex Chang, one of our 2 deputies with the division, as well as Tricia Goldsmith, who's the manager of our consumer education and advocacy section. Next slide, please. So give an overview of the division here. Our consumer protection mission, which you can see here, is essentially to ensure that when companies make promises, that they have the money on hand to fulfill those promises, whether that's an investment product, banking, insurance, and as well that companies or individuals keep the promises that they make to consumers. Our regulatory scope is very broad, touching on almost every sector of the Oregon economy. And in total, we oversee about 25 different program areas and have a staff of 165 team members conducting functions such as regulatory and compliance examinations, providing consumer education and consumer advocacy in response to consumer complaints. Next slide, please. So to dive in a bit further to what we do, primarily 2 functions. One, ensuring from a solvency point of view that companies are sufficiently capitalized and have enough money on hand to fulfill the promises made to consumers. And much of our staff spends time out in the field examining companies, analyzing financials received, ensuring that when companies apply for a license with us, that they are sufficiently capitalized to operate and do business in the state. But another core function of what we do is centered on consumer education, consumer advocacy issues. And so our advocates handle complaints and inquiries from Oregon consumers who have questions or experience difficulties with any of the entities that are regulated by DFR. Complaints come to us and inquiries come to us in many forms. So we have an online complaint form that someone can fill out. Someone can just send us an email. We receive complaints and inquiries by mail and from other agencies, including the Department of Justice. We also have a live phone line so consumers can call in to our advocacy line with a question about an insurance or a financial product or to start a complaint. In addition to responding to these sorts of inquiries and consumer complaints, the consumer education and outreach section also engages in community outreach statewide and online, which Tricia will get to here in a minute. But high level, the priority is that the work there serves underserved communities, including Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, immigrants and refugees, underserved youth, and seniors across the whole range of programs that we regulate. and helping consumers make those decisions when purchasing insurance or using their insurance policy or even buying their home for the first time. Next slide, please. So a couple other programs I wanted to touch on briefly, they operate within the division to promote affordability in the healthcare industry. And so the first is the state reinsurance program, which operates to reduce rates in the individual market by 6%. And this program uses a mix of federal and state dollars to do that. We're able to make insurance a little bit more affordable to those that need to and rely upon the individual market to purchase their health insurance. The other program I'll mention is our prescription drug price transparency program, which operates to surface the cost of the drug price supply chain and really shine a light on the entire prescription drug pricing process. This information, which is put up on our website and is shared with policymakers, really informs decisions made about drug pricing from a regulator's point of view. And eventually, we hope will lower the costs of drugs for consumers. So I'll go ahead and move to the next slide and turn it over to Tricia.
Good morning, everyone. As TK mentioned, my name is Tricia Goldsmith, and I'm the manager of our consumer advocacy and outreach team. So I'll take just a minute here to outline our consumer education and outreach team and what they do. So our team works across the state, both independently and in partnership with other community organizations to ensure that consumers have access to information about insurance and financial products. The outreach team prioritizes working with underserved communities, including Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, immigrants and refugees, underserved youth, and seniors. And to promote equity and inclusion in banking, outreach staff support the Coalition of Banks and Credit Unions and nonprofits who form Bank on Oregon. The purpose of Bank on Oregon is to ensure that everyone has access to safe and affordable financial products and services. The education and outreach efforts also include empowering consumers to become successful homeowners by providing materials to help consumers learn about the mortgage lending process and how to avoid foreclosure. Outreach and advocacy staff work hand in hand as a functional unit to respond to current trends and developments, safeguard consumer protections, and enhance Oregonians' capabilities to access fair financial and insurance products and services. Next slide, please. I'm excited to let everyone know that DFR is rolling out a new program in 2023 to bolster our efforts in providing consumer education to underserved communities. The division plans to provide financial sponsorships to organizations that currently engage in financial empowerment work, prioritizing organizations that serve underserved communities. We have committed funds to award sponsorships to up to 5 organizations for 1-year contracts of $25,000 each. And this program is expected to be in place for at least 3 years, and applicants can apply each year. The goal is to empower consumers in underserved communities to make decisions about financial services and products that are right for them. We want to increase the capacity of community-based organizations to provide financial education relating to insurance, investment, and credit products. We would also like to raise awareness of scams and promote the availability of division services and resources, such as our consumer advocacy team. Next slide, please.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Alex Chang. I'm a deputy administrator for the division. I just wanted to share with you our budget plans for the upcoming biennium. As part of our biennial budgeting process, DCBS submits any increases in staffing needs to the legislature. Even though our division, much like DCBS as a whole, is funded by licensing fees from our regulated industries, we needed to get legislative approval when we have these type of staffing changes. DFR is requesting 10 new positions to support new programs that the legislature has created over the past several years, and to support growth in certain industries and to respond to the increasing complexity of the financial services sector. For our outreach and advocacy unit, the division is requesting 2 additional advocates to handle insurance, bank, credit union, and securities complaints. We are requesting 2 additional financial education outreach coordinators, which will allow the division to provide needed resources to engage in our communities, support our sponsorship program, help educate Oregonians, teach disaster preparedness, and respond if a disaster occurs. To help manage that additional staff, we're requesting an additional manager to supervise that team. We are also looking to expand our NDP team. That's our non-depository program. The division is requesting 2 new financial examiners for that program to keep pace with the growing number of licensees. Our insurance analysts review routine quarterly and annual filings to ensure that insurers are financially sound. We are seeking an additional senior financial analyst to handle the increase in filings that we've received. And then finally, our IT examiners, as part of our duty to make sure state chartered banks and credit unions are operating in a safe and sound manner, we examine and assess their IT security systems. Cyber attacks are on the rise and IT systems are becoming more complex, and the division needs staff with IT security expertise to take on this important. Next slide, please. So as you may know, state agencies in Oregon are able to submit legislative proposals for consideration by the legislature. Pending approval from the governor's office, we have prepared a set of legislative concepts and some placeholders for the 2023 legislative session. First off, we want to talk about our fair auto insurance rating legislative concept. This is a concept that we introduced in the 2021 session as well. Basically, we want to reform the auto insurance rating system to make sure that insurers are using factors related to safe driving and to prohibit the use of rating factors such as credit score, occupation, home ownership status that may have a disproportionate impact on marginalized communities. Also wanted to quickly go over 2 of our placeholders. The first relates to network adequacy. And this is a requirement relating to health insurers and the provider networks that they contract with. So we want to make sure that they have a large enough provider network that their members can seek healthcare from providers, and that there's an adequate network to support things like culturally competent care, mental health, and other needs from consumers. I also mentioned that we will be having a placeholder on health insurance updates. DFR usually has a placeholder for technical fixes relating to changes in federal policy and other health insurance issues that pop up. So with that, if we could go to the next slide, I will turn it over to the group for questions and comments.
Thank you, Alex and team. We'll see if any questions or comments come in. And while we're waiting, let's turn over to the next team, our OSHA team, to give us a presentation on their program. Renee, I'll turn over to you.
Morning, everyone. My name is Renee Stapleton, and I am the acting administrator for Oregon OSHA. Pronouns are she, her, hers. And I just wanted to thank you all for joining us this morning. It is a pleasure to talk about our program and hear about input and things that we can do to improve and actually reach out to a different kind of community members and hope to engage more with additional groups. Thank you. Next slide. So, Oregon OSHA, a little bit about our program, is the mission is to improve workplace safety and health for all workers in Oregon. We have an extra eye to committing towards working with labor and business and other government agencies to achieve this goal. And we are regulating nearly every workplace in Oregon, with a few exceptions as it relates to federal jurisdiction and railroad administration and tribal locations. Most all workplaces in Oregon are under Oregon OSHA's jurisdiction, which means all workplaces have a focal point on workers in underserved and underrepresented communities. So one of the areas that we want to talk with the members today is just talking about our commitment to worker protection and how we can actively address any kind of inequities between employers and workers, as well as any type of cultural or language differences that can possibly create barriers for worker protection. We understand that there's challenges in navigating culturally diverse materials and want to encourage discussions and try and find solutions for getting out to community members that would benefit from different types of material or different types of learning avenues. One area that we wanted to engage in a conversation with is the idea of a budget request for adding on a community engagement coordinator in this upcoming biennium. The community engagement coordinator would help plan and schedule, facilitate community initiatives and events, help with worker-based advisory committees, and serve as a point for community members and leader and labor advocates along with Oregon OSHA leadership. We want to make sure that we are engaging in communities and getting out there, providing the types of resource materials and training opportunities, as well as listening to what is needed, what type of regulations or rulemaking or enhanced services that Oregon OSHA can offer. Slide. So a little bit about Oregon OSHA as a whole. We have a number of programs that strive to help community members and workers and help them navigate getting home at the end of the day safe. As I said before, our mission is to protect workers, safety and health hazards. So we do this in a number of ways. Our enforcement program is by far the most visual program, and it is something that we put a lot of emphasis in because regulatory process is an important aspect for deterrent of employers and employees engaging in injury and illness activities. So part of this process is we do have to do fatalities and accidents, which is just a really challenging set of circumstances that no workers and no employers ever need to be faced with. And we also have to work through the process of working with families and helping them navigate the services that they might need to access workers' compensation or the Ombuds office to try and receive compensation and certainly find solutions to any kind of fatality or accident so it doesn't happen again. Another avenue that we engage in relating to inspection of workplaces is a complaint process, which we have 6 offices that accept complaints across the state. We have online services, and we have somebody available every day to take any kind of complaint that comes in. We offer the complaint form in English and Spanish, and we are certainly looking at avenues of providing more language services for the complaint form. Referrals are those events that come from other entities like state agencies or local government, and they operate very similar to a complaint where we have an alleged hazard and we would go and investigate safety or health hazards and try and mitigate any kind of solutions. Scheduled inspections are the inspections that we plan to do, and they're the ones that are on our list of inspections based on the hazard category. Generally, our lists are generated based on the industrial classification that is known to be a hazardous type of industry. And then we also look at injury and illness rates and some other categories. And we do that as a comprehensive inspection where we're looking at the big picture, trying to evaluate wall to wall, all the programs and all the processes that the employer engages in. And this is really where we can find a lot of opportunities to engage with workers and understand the kinds of things that they're at risk to do. And then with all inspections, we have the opportunity for follow-ups because we need to make sure that when a citation is issued, that hazards don't go unabated. So that is another area that we get out to the community and do follow-up inspections and ensure that everything is correct. Abatement assistance is another area that enforcement works with to help the employer not just issue citations, but also work through solutions. Sometimes the solutions are fairly complex to abate the hazard, and sometimes it just takes a little bit of effort from our enforcement officers to help them navigate some of the issues that are facing workers and employers. So one thing I wanted to highlight in our enforcement activity of the things that we are really actively trying to get more staff members that are bilingual that can help us in working with the communities where English is not the primary language. As part of our enforcement activities, we do interviews with employees, and we want to be able to provide language services so employees feel comfortable speaking with us about the activities going on in their workplace. And another area that we spend a lot of time on is making sure that our enforcement officers are familiar with some things to identify vulnerable workers and help work through those kinds of challenges and actually engage with those workers to better understand some of the issues that they are faced with. There are oftentimes workers who have opportunities to provide more information on an inspection to help us issue a citation and support a violation. Slide. Our consultation program is very similar to the enforcement program as far as staffing levels go. We offer free consultative services to employers, so that helps their employees stay safe. These two programs are operated completely separate. They do not share any information with one another. Consultation is out there to help employers achieve safety and health management systems and how to become self-sufficient. So we offer safety consultations, industrial hygiene consultations, ergonomics, and process safety management. And that is the gamut of the kinds of safety and health issues that are out there. And it can be as little as the employer is interested in pursuing and as large and expansive as the employer is interested in. The overall goal of everything with Oregon OSHA is to reduce occupational safety and health injuries and illnesses. And we do that by helping them gain confidence in their programs and helping them understand how they can identify safety and health hazards and processes in place to help mitigate them. Next slide. Our public education department offers free on-site training as well as virtual training, and we have really expanded our multimedia services, so they are able to be viewed off of a number of platforms and can provide certifications for employers to have their employees receive this training, and also get continuing education credits through CCB. So it is another avenue to encourage training. Oregon OSHA feels strongly that the more information that is available on safety and health issues provide more protective measures for workers. The more that workers are comfortable standing up and talking about their experiences and helping the employer navigate the various challenges in the workplace, helps with a more cohesive environment that is free to talk about safety and health hazards and work through issues. A lot of our classes that we offer are offered in Spanish, and we are looking at expanding some of those public education offerings into other languages. Slide. And our resource center is also connected to the Public Education Center. It provides streaming videos in different languages, as well as DVDs. It's a lending library, so employers can check out videos and have their workers read through it or attend the classes as they put on different classes, and this might be just one portion, or it might help supplement other kinds of trainings that they have. It is a free service to employers. Along with the resource center, we provide publications and other materials to help employers train their staff and have more proactive discussions about safety and health hazards. Slide. Our conferences section has really spent a lot of time trying to work with safety and health organizations and find unique training opportunities to help employers be proactive in the workplace. Our conferences are usually co-sponsored with other organizations, and we often put together tracks for various types of industries, so that way it's a little bit easier for an employer to send their employees to the conferences to gain some real targeted training. One thing that we initiated prior to COVID was a Spanish language only conference, and that was in 2019. The intent was to have an annual conference, and COVID unfortunately made some challenges to that. And we are on track for our second conference in Spanish on November 8th. And it is the first of its kind in our area. It's really a great opportunity to have employees or people who are looking to be employees or those who want to increase their safety and health knowledge. It is a conference that we offer that has no charge to the attendee, and it allows them to receive resources entirely in Spanish and other indigenous languages. The employee rights is a significant discussion point in the conferences, along with safety and health training in all industries. We're going to be looking at providing more focal point in construction this year, as well as agriculture. These resources are all entirely in Spanish, and we will have everybody at the conference available from our team to help navigate any kinds of questions or concerns that attendees might have. Slide. And technical, this is our rulemaking section, and we spend a lot of time trying to talk about the different safety and health hazards that are out there and what kinds of rules or publications that we need to implement to protect workers. We have gone through a process of trying to get more diverse representation on our rulemaking committees. We have been engaging in listening sessions to hear from community members about the kinds of experiences they've had and how we can take those experiences and fold them into the rulemaking process. We do our public hearings with varied times in both the day and the evening to allow for more people to be able to attend, as well as we are holding hearings in Spanish with the opportunity for people to have bilingual services in the non-Spanish hearings as well. Next slide. As I mentioned before, we have 6 offices. Just wanted to touch on the direct information if anybody is interested in reaching out to our enforcement team or our consultation team in any of the offices. And then there is a Spanish line available through our central administration. With that, if there's any questions or comments.
Thank you so much, Renee. Excuse me. And thank you to the DFR team as well for providing that information. So now we're going to move to the most important part of the presentation, or the open house rather, which is any questions and feedback from anyone who's here. So if you're watching this as a recording, we're going to end that in just a moment. But representatives, if you're here live, we'll have folks from each team stick around for the remainder of the scheduled time to answer any questions and have any discussion that there is. But before we end the recording, just want to thank everyone for joining us today, especially thank our teams for all the great information that they provided. To remind everyone that this is new for us and we're very open for feedback, not only on the information and our programs and what we do, but on this process as well and how we can keep improving that moving forward. I'll remind you there's 3 more open houses that we're having, and plenty of opportunity outside of those open houses to give us feedback or questions at our email, which is dcbs.engagement@dcbs.oregon.gov. And again, welcome feedback and questions on any portion of our program or this process as well. So with that, we'll pause the recording and stick around in case there's anyone that wants to talk or has any questions for us. Thank you, everyone.